Donald Trump has some serious masculinity issues, and so do the men who look at him as being very tough. He has a lot of very feminine traits, and he represents what I call juvenile masculinity. There's two different types of masculinity in my view, because I recognize that there's some men who will be loud and aggressive, but yet they have a lot of feminine traits. Very argumentative, very emotional, very easy to get them pissed off, and road rage and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's very feminine. That's not strong to just be so easily bothered. But then I'm like, but look at them. These guys look like they're tough. They can probably fight. Not talking about Trump, of course. So I'm like, there's masculinity there, but something's missing. And what it is the maturity, right? Because again, if Donald Trump were a teenage boy, he's pretty masculine. But as a man, he's pretty feminine. So, and unfortunately, the main people who talk about we have a masculinity issue in this country are not the best representatives of masculinity. But let me elaborate about what I'm talking about when I say Donald Trump has a masculinity problem. So let's talk about the 3-on-1 commentary. So people are talking about the debate was unfair because you had two moderators and Kamala Harris, and they were all, against Trump and Trump by his lonesome. Listen, man. Unfortunately, I think some people who think that Trump's a tough guy, they lack role models to see how men are supposed to behave, right? And to those people who don't understand what I'm talking about, let me illustrate. So I'm not the most masculine man in the world, for sure, right? That's not my nature. I'm not I'm not a fighter type. I'm not some football guy or whatever. I'm very thin. I'm not really no one's looking at me getting intimidated by my physical presence, right? I think in terms of my drive, my determination, I think it's hard to match, right? On that level, I'm a beast, right? When it comes to just discipline, get it done against all odds. When others give up, I'm still pushing through. Case in point, some of you know the sort of drama I've been going through in the last couple of years. It's been really tough, really, really tough. But I was able to push through and succeed. I'm still dealing with some challenges now, but I was able to succeed where others failed. There were 2 or 3 other people before me that tried to do what I have accomplished, and they failed. They gave up. And actually, the guy that sort of handed me this drama, dishonestly, didn't tell me everything. But again, I stepped up, I rose above, and I succeeded. Trust me, it was tough. I almost didn't make it, but I did. And it's not the first time I've done something like that. So when I talk about Donald Trump has a masculinity problem, I'm far more masculine than Donald Trump by far. It's not even close. But that's not really saying a lot because he's pretty feminine, and I will demonstrate. So the idea that he would go and do a debate like that and do so horribly and then have the nerve to talk about 3-on-1, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Now, let me put myself in Donald Trump's shoes. 3-on-1? 4-on-1? 5-on-1? I don't care, man. I'll even do what Kamala Harris won't do, right? I'll go on Fox News. You think I'm afraid of Fox News? And let me explain why I wouldn't be afraid and why I don't have an issue and I wouldn't be sitting there crying and complaining. I want you to stop and think for a second. What do you think that Fox News could do that would be intimidating to me? I mean, the moderators for this debate, the worst that people could say, even the ones who are just, and they usually don't go into detail, they just say 3-on-1, 3-on-1, right? But the worst you could say is they didn't ask Kamala some tougher questions, should have asked tougher questions. Maybe they asked some questions that were difficult for Donald Trump. People say that they fact-checked Trump, but they didn't fact-check Kamala Harris. None of these things scare me, man. None of the things that you guys are talking about are relevant, right? To a man who has strength and is grown, none of that nonsense you're talking about matters. You want to know why? Because what is the worst that, I'm going to put myself in Donald Trump's shoes, just to keep it simple. If I were Donald Trump, all right, minus his masculinity issues, even with, let's accept the framing of people who don't like Trump. Let's accept that he's lying and he doesn't have any policies and all the negative stuff. Just take away the masculinity issues and take away the crazy and take away the incompetence, right? In that scenario, if I were Donald Trump, there's no way that a biased moderation would be an issue at all. And I'll explain. Because I'm not an idiot and incompetent like Donald Trump, I would be well aware of what are the most difficult questions that I can possibly be asked, right? I pay attention to what people are saying online that don't like me. I look at what's getting the most traction, right? So I know the strongest things that they can come after me with. And as a person who's not incompetent, I would have strong answers and rebuttals. There's no question that you could ask me that is so difficult that I couldn't come up with a response in 2 minute time that at least makes me look like I'm know what I'm talking about. I'm confident, not afraid, leaned in, didn't hide from the question, or whatever it is, right? I can find a way. I mean, he had time to prepare, right? And again, if I were in his shoes, because I'm not incompetent, I would have prepared. So I could go on ABC, MSNBC, let me go on the Young Turks. You think I'm afraid of Cenk? All right? So number one, as a man, you don't run from your problems. If people are hitting you hard with certain points, rather than hide from it, you embrace it. Come up with a response to it, address it, and have something ready to go. You want to ask me tough questions? Ask me tough questions. Also, another thing that comes from masculinity is taking charge, right? Why doesn't it matter if it's Fox News or it's Newsmax, MSNBC? It doesn't matter who I'm on with, because I'm going to make sure that we agree to rules that prohibits them from doing things that could actually hurt me. Because even though I could prepare all I want, but if, let's say, for example, they just allow the other person on debating to keep talking over me, that's a problem. Because all of my whatever I have to say, people can't hear what I'm saying because we're going back and forth. And then it's like, it's tough because if you're yelling, I can't just ignore your yelling and just keep talking. Then I have to try to talk louder. Now it looks like I'm yelling, and then it's gonna get me sort of it's just not gonna make me in a good position to look very smooth, and that's something that could hurt, right? But again, as a person who doesn't struggle with masculinity issues like Donald Trump, I would stand up and address these things. I would come prepared. I would make sure the rules are set up in an appropriate way so that the extreme level stuff like what I just illustrated, that's not an option, right? And if they don't want to agree, and it wouldn't be crazy rules. Like for me to say, hey, we're not 2 minutes at a time, or mics or mute, whatever it is, and there's no way that stuff I would ask for, it would be reasonable for you to be like, oh no, we're not going to agree to that, right? And if you don't want to agree to it, I go somewhere else, and I also let the public know why we had this disagreement, right? So I don't care. I don't need the host to be fair to me. I don't need them on my side. Right? I'll go in and I'll debate people who strongly disagree with me, and I don't care who the moderators are. Irrelevant. We're going to set ground rules. We're going to make sure that we stick to those ground rules. I already know what my biggest weaknesses are, and I just come prepared. Right? And again, even if it's Donald Trump, and let's say, for example, let's say I committed a crime. I did something legitimately bad. Right? So coming after me for this, in theory, is a good attack. Knowing this, I can still have a response. I can, pivot. I could deflect. I could talk about it in a way where it doesn't make it look as bad or whatever it is. But the bottom line is, especially if I'm a billionaire like Donald Trump, I can have strategists come up with all kinds of different, so it doesn't have to be just on me. Like, hey, let's brainstorm about how can I address this thing? Like, I actually screwed up here, and they're going to call me out for it. I need a way to respond to this, right? But think about it as being an adult, right? I would have been prepared. I would have taken advantage of my wealth and my resources, and I would have come ready for it. I don't care. Ask me whatever you want. If you're going to ask me tough questions, so for example, they can't come in and ask me 3 of the most difficult questions and never do the same for my opponent. No, I'll set the ground rules. You got to ask the same amount of difficult questions on both sides. The way that the question should be picked is based on popularity. So for example, one of the most popular attacks on Kamala is that she's a DEI, whatever, right? So that's something like whatever. Look at you can do the statistics on this and see what people are talking about, what's getting the most traction, what people are repeating. Some people now talking about, oh, she's Indian, whatever it is, right? It's not a secret. The thing is, again, those talking about 3-in-1, these moderators didn't do anything that we haven't seen before. So Donald Trump, as the man that he pretends to be, the man he plays on TV, the character he plays on TV, he knows how these debates go, right? He's seen ABC debates before. He's seen CNN debates before. Fox News debates before, right? There was nothing that was done that was like, whoa, you've never seen that before. So you know how these things go. So there's nothing stopping you from strategically coming up with a plan to address these issues, and also to control the situation so that they don't actually brutalize you. Because again, like let's say for example, they allowed the other person to keep talking over me, and then when I try to do the same thing, they cut me off or whatever it is. Like I'll set the ground rules. right? And also in the middle of the debate, because let's say they agree to it and then they violate it, because what am I going to do? Cry afterwards? No. If I were Donald Trump, billionaire, you think any biased host or moderator is going to do some garbage? Like, for example, let's say, for example, I'm Donald Trump and Kamala keeps talking over me, and throwing me off, right? And then when she's lying about me and I try to do the same thing she does to me, they're shutting me down like, sir, listen, man, I'm going to stand to those, I'm going to be respectful, but I'm not going to allow that. I'm like, sir, Mr. Whatever, let's pause this debate. This is not what we agreed to. The rules of the debate said that we're supposed to be fair and objective. We're supposed to treat both sides equally, right? 2 times we saw she interrupted me and you did nothing. And now I'm doing the very same thing that you allowed her to do. And now this is unacceptable. The American people demand better. They deserve better than this. So it's not about me. It's not about Kamala, right? This is about the American people. This debate, it's not a show. This is not for entertainment. Either we're going to follow the rules and we're going to be fair, or I'm going to end this debate. Because I'm not going to, I'm not going to allow this. This is not how this is going to go down. We're going to be fair. I want you to treat me and my opponent fairly and equally, right? The American people are watching. They can see what's going on. They see this is not fair, and I'm not going to allow it, right? So you take control of the situation. You set the ground rules. You prepare. You have the track record of how these debates go. You know what people are saying. You know what the tough questions are. You come in with responses for the tough questions, right? And then this whole thing about Kamala, she's manipulating. How the hell is Kamala Harris or anybody gonna manipulate me on some nonsense? Talk about my crowd sizes and all. Are you kidding me? Again, this is a masculinity issue, right? As a grown-ass man, if I'm coming into debate, I am here to deliver a message to people that I want to vote for me, right? So if I'm coming in, I want to talk about the border. I want to talk about inflation. I want to talk about jobs. I want to talk about crime in the United States. You talk about my crowd side in one ear and out the other. I don't give a rat's ass, right? That is the masculinity that he is missing, right? The fact that this woman could so easily just, a dog walk him like that, that is the masculinity issue with Donald Trump. And unfortunately, with people who think he's tough. And part of the reason, again, is who are the icons? Who are the role models who are showing young boys growing up, what it is to be a man? You have people who will get online and talk about masculinity, and their version of masculinity is, loud and that's not masculinity, man. I mean, if you are so sensitive that it's easy for someone to get you angry, to get you, I'm going to punch you in the face or road rage, you're going to go and jump out your car and yelling at somebody. That's not masculinity, because it takes strength for someone to do something that's annoying to you, or whatever it is. But for you to have self-control, to not just go along with, I'm angry now, so I'm going to go, that's not masculinity, man. 3-on-1. Yeah, that's yeah. Come up with something better than that. This is a Baby Channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. Stop making excuses. Have some accountability. Stand up, shoulders back, head up, right? Lean in, right? Don't be scared about things that don't matter. Focus on what's important. Focus on your objectives. Focus on what you're trying to get done. You're going into a debate, go in there, fight, and win the debate, right? And if you, on the other side, you like Donald Trump or whatever it is, you see him acting, weak like this, be a man and be like, listen, he was weak, right? Don't pretend, Kamala this, and it was a 3-on-1, man. That's not it, man. That's not it. Accountability. Take accountability in your life and take accountability for who you support.